I can't touch you, Sean. But I think I already did. That was the moment I realized I'd signed up for something far weirder than high-end customer service. The man in front of me, Ashar, the club's elusive owner, sat behind a marble desk that gleamed like it had never known dust. His suit was charcoal black, tailored within an inch of sin, and his shirt was the kind of crisp white that dared me to find a wrinkle. There were none. Of course. I stared at him, trying to blink the gravity of that sentence out of existence. I'm sorry, what? I asked, slowly lowering the clipboard with the last page of my employment paperwork. Was that your version of a welcome? He smiled. Not a wide smile. Just the barest tug at the corner of his mouth, like he was humoring a child. I'm serious, Sean. I figured, I muttered, glancing at the contract clause again. Under no circumstances shall employee initiate or reciprocate physical contact with owner. That was in bold, highlighted even. I'd thought it was a joke, or maybe some billionaire germaphobe thing. Now, not so funny. You're telling me you can't touch me, I said slowly. Like, what, religious reasons? Vampire rules? Some sort of intense HR policy? I'm not a vampire. So, that's a yes to the religion part? His eyes narrowed, but not in annoyance. More like quiet fascination. Like I'd said something he hadn't expected but wasn't mad about. Your energy, he said. It disrupts mine. Violently. Hot. He blinked. Not sensually. Could have fooled me. I've been here 10 minutes, and you've already told me I'm a danger to your body. My body can survive, he said evenly. I'm less sure about yours. Oh. Okay, that was less sexy. Still. I raised an eyebrow. So what happens if I accidentally brush past you in the hallway? Ashar didn't answer right away. He stood, which was unnecessarily dramatic given the height advantage he already had while seated. Still, I noticed he moved like he was used to being watched, like every step had weight and intention, and I'd danced with enough narcissists to know that wasn't for show. That was habit. He walked around the desk, coming closer. My instincts prickled, something deep in my gut twitching, warning me. But I didn't move. I don't plan to test it, he said. But I believe it would hurt. Both of us. So we're just going to not touch? I asked. Ashar looked me over, slow, clinical, but not impersonal. Then he stepped back. I can't touch you, Sean, he said again. But I think I already did. The room went quiet. As in, actually quiet. Like the air shifted. Like something in the walls held its breath. And I, being the idiot I am, did what I do best. Deflected. Well, good to know my vibe's fatal, I said. Do I get hazard pay or just free dry cleaning when the sparks fly? The club was called Vellum, and it felt like it had been carved out of night. No flashing neon, no sweaty dancers, just cool music vibrating through smoked glass walls, shadows shaped by expensive lighting, and the scent of something like burnt vanilla and winter air. Not cloying, just enough to make you breathe deeper. Every employee I'd met so far looked like they were in a GQ fever dream. But they didn't flirt, didn't smile unless they meant it. And everyone moved like they were on rails, elegant, careful, practiced. Which made me the human paper cut in this beautifully bound book. You're the new admin? Asked the woman at the front desk. She didn't rise, just flicked her eyes up from her screen. Figures. That obvious? I know what Ashar likes, she said flatly. And it's not sarcasm. I leaned on the counter. Then I guess I'm a test case. Her name tag said Lucy. Her aura said demoness, who once ate a bad Tinder date, and never got over it. You're not funny, she added. You just think you are. I mean, I shrugged. They hired me. I didn't. Don't take it personally. I didn't hire you either. Lucy narrowed her eyes. Enjoy your first week, Sean. The ones who last don't start like you. Later that evening, I met Cade, the bar manager. He was the quiet type, tall, dreadlocks tied back, sleeves rolled, hands precise. He didn't say much, but when he slid a glass across the bar to me, He offered the faintest smile. Club specialty, he said. The drink changed color as I picked it up, soft amber turning a shimmer of green. What's it do? I asked. Shows how you're feeling, he replied. To you. Not to us. I squinted at the swirl. So, passive-aggressive therapy? Cade's smile widened. A fraction. Welcome to Vellum. That night, before I left, I passed Ashar in the hall. He was speaking low in some language I didn't recognize. Something too smooth to be European, and too old to be human. I tried to pass without interrupting, but his eyes snapped to me. And just as I was about to keep walking, my arm brushed his. The world cracked. Not literally, but it felt like the air flexed around us, like a wave of heat and static surged up my spine and hit me right in the chest. My knees buckled. Ashar hissed, staggering back. His hand clutched the marble wall like it was the only thing holding him to earth. I gasped. My skin burned, just for a second. And then it stopped. What the hell was that? I asked, breathless. Ashar looked at me like I'd just ripped open the sky. You touched me, he said. That wasn't supposed to happen. No kidding. You got a defibrillator in your pocket, or... Ashar straightened, fixing his cuffs with mechanical precision. Get some rest, Sean. We'll talk tomorrow. No. You don't get to Jedi mind trick me after electrocuting me in your hallway. His voice was quiet, but it cut like velvet. You're not what I expected. Yeah? I muttered. Neither are you. If Vellum had a motto, it was probably be immaculate or be invisible. By day 3, I'd learned the rhythm of the place. Or rather, how to stay out of it. The staff glided. I'm not exaggerating. They moved like silk being pulled through still water, never colliding, never pausing, just flowing from one moment to the next. A tray left a hand and landed perfectly on a table. A coat vanished from a guest's shoulders before it touched the floor. Even the damn doors opened like they were responding to thought. And me? I still got stuck trying to figure out how the espresso machine worked without buttons. Try humming, said Cade one morning, wiping a glass that didn't need wiping. Humming? He nodded, not looking at me. Low. Like you mean it? I narrowed my eyes at the machine. You serious? He shrugged. She doesn't like hesitation. Great. Sentient appliances. Of course. I muttered a baritone please work under my breath, and the machine hissed to life like I'd just apologized in its native tongue. A perfect cappuccino materialized 10 seconds later. I took it with a small bow. Noted. Don't offend the chrome gods. Cade gave me a rare smirk, and went back to polishing glassware that sparkled like starlight. There were other oddities I hadn't dared to ask about yet, like why everyone stepped aside when Ashar walked into a room, even if they didn't see him. Like how guests always left the club looking vaguely euphoric, like they'd just had their sins exfoliated off their souls. Or like what I witnessed Tuesday night. I was stalking inventory reports in the back lounge, when Ashar entered with a client I hadn't met before. Mid-40s, gray at the temples. The kind of man who wore confidence like cologne. Loud, and meant to linger. They sat close but not intimately. Ashar reached out, touched the client's hand lightly. That was it. Just contact. Palm to palm. Brief. And the man exhaled like he'd been holding in pain for years. His shoulders sagged. His whole face relaxed, like he'd just come back from some inner war and finally laid down the sword. Ashar said nothing, but I saw the faintest shimmer around his hand, like heat rising off asphalt. Then he stood, nodded once, and walked away. The man remained seated, blinking slowly, as if unsure how to exist in the absence of whatever that touch had taken. I didn't ask. Because I didn't want to admit I'd been watching. Because I didn't want to admit that Ashar never touched me like that. Didn't touch me at all. Hell, he barely came near me unless it was to give me an assignment or a smirk. Usually both. The weirdest part? He wasn't cold. Not exactly. He still spoke with that elegant dryness, like he'd been educated in a palace and weaponized in a library. But when he looked at me, I felt heat. Pull. like gravity was misbehaving, and I started noticing how he didn't look at anyone else that way. On Thursday, he passed me in the hallway. We both stopped. "You're late," he said mildly. "For coffee. You bring me one every morning. You skipped today." I blinked. I didn't know that was part of my job description. "It isn't," he said. But it had become a pleasant pattern. "Oh, well, I didn't want to risk disrupting your energy." I wiggled my fingers dramatically. His mouth twitched. "I suspect you enjoy disrupting everything, only things that look too perfect." He stepped forward, and I instinctively stepped back. He noticed, paused, then smiled. But there was something unreadable in his expression. "You're not afraid of me, Sean. I'm not an idiot either." "No," he agreed. "You're something else entirely." Later I was wiping down the back bar when Lucy slithered by. "I have a theory," she said, not looking up from her tablet. "Oh, joy. Is it about astrology again?" "No. You wouldn't even be a fire sign. You'd be static cling. I resent that. You should." She tilted her head. "You know you're the only one he doesn't touch, right?" I froze. "Excuse me?" "Ashar." Her voice was too light, too sharp. "He'll graze a wrist, tap a shoulder, brush a sleeve. It's like breathing for him. Except with you, maybe he doesn't like my cologne." Lucy finally looked up. "He looks at you like you're the one cigarette he quit 10 years ago, and still dreams about." I had no comeback for that. I just watched her walk away, heels silent against the velvet flooring. That night, I found Ashar in the library lounge. No guests, just him, reading something that didn't have a title, bound in cloth that shimmered like oil. I hovered near the door. "You can come in," he said without looking up. "You always know when I'm around?" He turned a page. "Your energy is disruptive, remember?" "Right." I leaned against the bookshelf. "So, no touching. Ever." "That's really a thing?" "It's not a preference. It's a reality." I paused. "But that guy 2 nights ago, you touched him." "Yes. I needed something from him." "Energy?" He nodded once. "And from me?" Ashar finally looked up. "You," he said, voice softer, "are not a conduit. You don't give, you don't take, you clash." "That explains a lot," I muttered. "It's not an insult. Could have fooled me." He stood slowly, gaze locked to mine. No humor now. Just curiosity, and something deeper I didn't want to name. "You don't want to be touched," he said, "but you crave being known." The words landed too close to the scar I kept buried under sarcasm. "And you," I replied, "act like you know everything, but you still want to be surprised." A pause. Then, softly, "You surprise me," Ashar admitted. I hated how much I liked hearing that. If perfection had a face, it walked into Vellum Thursday night wearing silk-lined arrogance, and a smirk that smelled like trouble. I was standing behind the host podium when I saw him, tall, graceful, dressed in deep sapphire like he owned every reflective surface he passed. His hair was ink black and slicked back with meticulous care, not a strand out of place. His eyes? Gold. Not hazel, not amber. Actual molten gold. Like someone had melted down a crown and poured it into his irises. And when he saw Ashar, he smiled like a cat finding the exact mouse it wanted to eat slowly. "Lucius," Ashar said flatly, appearing out of nowhere beside me, "you're not welcome here." "Oh, darling," Lucius purred, completely ignoring me. "Is that any way to greet an old flame?" "I brought wine." He held up a bottle with a label that shimmered between languages I couldn't read. One of the symbols looked suspiciously like a scream. Ashar didn't take it. "Why are you here?" "Lucius," I repeated under my breath, then louder. "Like Latin?" That got me a glance. Lucius looked me over like I was lint on a designer coat. "And who is this?" he asked. Head tilted. I opened my mouth to answer, but Ashar cut in first. "No one," he said. "An employee." "Wow. Rude." Lucius gave me a slow, patronizing smile. "Pretty for an admin." Thanks, I replied. You're pretty for someone no one invited. Ashar actually coughed. Possibly a laugh. Possibly not. Lacius's smile sharpened, but he let it go. I'm here on business. I heard you've been struggling. Thought I'd offer assistance. You mean ownership? Ashar said, cool as glass. A partnership, Lacius said, placing the bottle down. You provide the space, I provide the energy. The contracts flow again. Everyone wins. There was a beat of silence that stretched too tight. No, Ashar said simply. Leave. Lacius's smile didn't move, but his eyes cooled by a few 100 degrees. Still stubborn, he murmured. And still playing with humans. He glanced at me again, lips twitching. Careful, he said. They tend to break when you keep them too long. Then he turned and walked out like the hallway was a runway built for him alone. I didn't ask right away, but that night, when I passed Ashar's office, I paused. The door was ajar. He was seated at his desk, back to me, unmoving. One hand rested on the marble like it was the only thing anchoring him. I stepped in quietly. So, that was an ex? Ashar didn't look up. You should go home. Do all your exes try to buy you? He sighed, finally glancing at me. His tie was undone. First time I'd seen him like that. Lacius feeds on desire, he said. He's a collector. Of people. Of power. Of things he believes belong to him. And you? I belong to no one. But he thinks otherwise? Ashar didn't answer, so I sat in the chair across from him and said, well, he sucks. That earned a faint smile. Yes. And for the record, I'm not no one. His eyes met mine. Quiet. Steady. Then, no. You're not. A few days later, I found out what the club really did. Not from Ashar. From Cade. We were cleaning up after a private event, and I asked, casually I thought, what exactly are the VIP rooms used for? He glanced up, then wiped down a glass, slower than necessary. You ever hear someone say they'd give anything for peace of mind? He asked. Sure. Some people mean it literally. He handed me a key. Not to a room, to a floor. Go upstairs, he said. End of the hallway. If it opens for you, you're ready to know. Not ominous at all. I followed the instructions. The door at the end of the hall shimmered, like the air around it was warped by heat. When I touched the key to it, the lock clicked open, without a sound. Inside was nothing. Just a long, rectangular room. White walls. Mirrored floors. At the center, a single table made of glass. No chairs. No pen. No contract. But I felt something. Something humming beneath my skin. Like possibility. Like warning. And on the far wall, almost imperceptible, a phrase was etched in faint gold. Desire costs more than you think. I left the room shaking. Back downstairs I found Ashar near the bar, speaking with an older man in a dark coat. His name was Mr. Bram, one of the original investors I'd learned. His face was sharp, bird-like. His smile, dull and polite. I simply need a little reassurance, Bram said. This place has changed. I'm not sure it's what I signed up for. You signed a binding contract, Ashar said evenly. True. But, Bram said, reaching into his coat, I kept a copy. He pulled out a small metal object. Looked like a paperweight at first, but when he pressed it, it bloomed like a flower made of glass. Runes glowed inside it. Ashar's jaw clenched. Just barely. But I saw it. That shouldn't exist, he said. Bram smiled wider. Yet it does. What is that? I asked, stepping forward. Bram turned to me like I was invisible until now. A relic, he said. One that ensures certain promises are kept. Ashar looked at me then, his voice cold. Sean, step away. But I didn't. What kind of promises? Bram's eyes gleamed. Exile mostly. If invoked, this activates a clause to eject the holder, Ashar in this case, from this realm. Severing him from the club. From you. From everything. Silence. I swallowed hard. Why would you have that? Insurance, Bram said simply. Power attracts enemies. You understand? And then he walked away, leaving the artifact on the bar. Ashar didn't speak. He just stared at the glowing object like it had already taken something from him. Later that night, I cornered him in the empty library. You okay? No. Do you want to talk? I don't hold people here, Sean, he interrupted. That's the point of this place. People come of their own will. They choose. But Bram, he's afraid. Of change. Of losing his place. Of me. A beat. I don't blame him. But that thing could. I know. Silence stretched again. Then he looked at me, really looked at me, and said quietly, I let people go, I always have. But I wouldn't let you go, Sean. Not easily. I couldn't speak for a moment. Not with the way he said it. Not with the way it sat in my chest like something both terrifying and right. You don't have to, I said finally. The last person I expected to see sitting in Vellum's lounge, legs crossed like he owned the damn velvet sofa, was Trevor. Tell me you're not stalking me, I said, stopping mid-stride. Trevor looked up from his drink, grin spreading like he'd been waiting for this moment, all day. You don't return my texts, you vanish from every social, and now you're working at a club no one's ever heard of, but somehow has a waiting list? Yeah, I came to investigate. He stood and opened his arms. I didn't hug him. Instead, I raised an eyebrow. I work a night shift. That's not disappearing, that's surviving rent. He ignored me, looking around the room with theatrical skepticism. Sean, this place is weird. No kidding. I mean, expensive weird. Everyone's too calm, the lighting's too good. And is that bartender glowing? I glanced at Cade behind the bar. He did look suspiciously radiant tonight. Probably just the lighting. Trevor, I sighed. Why are you really here? His grin faded. Can we talk somewhere private? We ended up in the rooftop greenhouse. It was part of Vellum's upper floor, a strange, lush haven above the city. The air was thick with warmth and herbs I couldn't name. The floor was dark stone, and the walls were floor-to-ceiling glass, dotted with condensation and moonlight. Trevor looked around and lowered his voice. Okay. Cards on the table. There's a group. Private equity. They've been watching Vellum for a while now. They know something's off. I froze. How do they even know about it? You've got VIPs on 3 continents. Word travels. And when strange things start happening, disappearances, odd contracts, whispers, they notice. I laughed, but it was hollow. So, you came here to spy? I came to make sure you're not being used. His eyes softened. I know what happened after Julian. I flinched at the name. Don't. Sean, I watched you build yourself back up, brick by sarcastic brick. And now you're working for a guy you won't even explain in a club that feels like it's hiding something. It is hiding something, I said quietly. But not from me. Are you sure? He pressed. Because guys like Ashar, they don't just offer jobs, they wrap you up, slowly. You don't even notice it until you can't leave. I can leave. Trevor leaned in. Then why haven't you? Later that night, I found Ashar in the attic. Vellum's attic wasn't like any attic I'd known. No dust. No boxes. Just shadows and silence, broken only by strange relics that pulsed with faint light. Fractured mirrors leaned against stone columns. Shelves full of etched stones and jars that whispered when you got too close. Ashar stood near one of the mirrors, his reflection fractured into dozens of him. Each shard showed him at a slightly different angle. All beautiful. All tired. You sent Trevor away? I asked. Yes. Did you threaten him? No, he said. I simply told him the truth. Which is that I don't need his approval to keep you safe. My jaw tightened. I don't need protection. You don't know what he brought with him. He brought concern. Ashar turned, expression unreadable. Concern has a cost. Especially when it's delivered with a hidden agenda. Not everything is an agenda. And not everything is innocent. Silence. Then I asked, do you even trust me? He blinked. Yes. You didn't look like it when I was talking to him. Because I felt it. His voice dropped lower. Doubt. Slipping in through you like smoke. It stung. I swallowed hard. So, now you're reading my mind? No. Just your silence. I shook my head. This is messed up. All of it. Trevor was right. I don't know what this place is. I don't know what you are. Ashar stepped forward, slowly. Then ask. Fine. I crossed my arms. What is this club really? A sanctuary, he said. A place where desire meets consequence, where people trade what they don't realize they're ready to give. And me? I asked. What am I trading? He didn't answer. I took a breath. Why can't you touch me? His gaze met mine. Because it would change you. Everything else here already has. Ashar looked down. If you leave, I won't stop you. Great. But I will feel it, he added, voice barely above a whisper. Even without touching. I will feel it break. I stared at him. I've been broken before. His jaw clenched. I am not him. I didn't say you were. No, Ashar said. But you look at me like you're waiting for the betrayal. There it was. The raw part. The vulnerable thing I hadn't wanted to name. And he saw it. I turned to the mirror behind him. My own face looked fragmented. Warped. Like it wasn't quite mine. I don't know what I'm doing here, I admitted. Staying, he said. I let the word hang in the air. Then finally, if you can't touch me, Ashar, don't touch my soul either. He flinched. And that hurt more than I expected. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, thinking about Trevor. About Julian, about the way I used to fall in love with men who made me feel seen, right before they made me feel small. Ashar didn't make me feel small, but he made me feel visible, and that was dangerous in a different way. The next day, I walked into Vellum like I was choosing it, not just showing up. Ashar stood by the main staircase, hands clasped behind his back, watching me approach. Always watching. I'm still here, I said. I noticed. We stared at each other. I wanted to say 100 things, but all I managed was, don't make me regret it. Ashar nodded, eyes softening. I won't, he said. But I might fail. I've failed before. That was the first time I realized. He was afraid of me too. I wasn't supposed to be there. It was past 2 a.m., the club was closed, and I had already said goodnight to the staff with every intention of going home, and not thinking about the way Ashar had flinched when I told him to stop touching things he couldn't feel. But I couldn't sleep. Again, something kept pulling at me, a tug under my ribs, a twist in my gut. So I came back. The streets were slick with rain. The city humming softly like it was holding in a secret. Vellum rose in front of me like it always did, black stone, golden glass, shadows moving where they shouldn't. And when I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The lights were too low, the air too still. Then I saw it, the mirrored hallway. It had been sealed for months, off limits even to staff. But now, the lock was gone. The door hung open like a mouth waiting to swallow. And at the end of the corridor, something shimmered, metallic and sharp. Mr. Bram's relic. Open. Glowing. My stomach dropped. Ashar, I whispered, already running. I found him in the contract chamber. The room was brighter than I'd ever seen it. Light pulsed from the walls, flickering in irregular bursts. At the center, on the glass table, lay the artifact. Open and crackling. Ashar stood near it, one hand outstretched, veins lit with faint gold under his skin. Don't, I shouted. He didn't turn. It's already begun. Can you stop it? Maybe. His voice was strained. Not in pain, yet. But in effort. Like he was holding something at bay through sheer force of will. I stepped closer. Let me help. You shouldn't be here. Well, I snapped. You're terrible at locking doors. A beat of silence. Then he said softly, this thing was built to sever me from this world. It will strip me of anchor, power, self. I looked at the artifact. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Wrong and too fast. And you're just going to let it? If I destroy it, I might tear the seam holding this club together. Everyone inside, including you. My hands curled into fists. No. Sean, no, I said again, stepping up beside him. You don't get to do this alone. He turned to argue, and that's when it happened. The artifact flared. Not light, not heat. Sound. A low, shuddering hum that shook the walls. One of the mirrors cracked behind us with a sharp snap. I didn't think. I just moved. My hand shot out. And I touched him. It was not what I expected. There was no shock, no blast, no pain. Just warmth. Warmth and stillness. Like stepping into a quiet room after a storm. Ashar froze. His eyes met mine, wide with something I'd never seen there before. Fear. Sean. He whispered. I know, I said. He didn't pull away. I didn't either. Then we both looked down, at our hands. His fingers wrapped around mine, hesitant at first. Testing. Then closing. Firm. Real. No magic. No pain. Just touch. The artifact sparked again. Ashar let go of me just long enough to sweep his hand over the glass. A slash of golden fire arced across the relic. It shuddered, resisted, then split down the center with a shriek. The magic burst into the air, shards of light flying like sparks from a broken star. The room fell silent, then dark, and we were left in the quiet, breathing, alive, together. Ashar sank to the floor slowly, back against the wall, eyes unfocused. I crouched beside him, still dazed. That thing almost, I know. You didn't know. A pause. He turned to me, voice hoarse. You touched me. I did, and nothing happened. Well, I said, trying for levity. I mean, something did happen. I'm still kind of vibrating. His laugh was dry, but real. He looked at our hands again. You don't understand. That shouldn't be possible. Your energy. It's not compatible with mine. It's like trying to mix oil and fire. I shrugged. Maybe we just burned through it. Ashar blinked at me. What? You're calm. I smiled faintly. I'm terrified. But also relieved. He studied me like I was a painting he couldn't stop revisiting. You could have been hurt. I wasn't. I could have destroyed you. You didn't. Then I reached out again, slowly, giving him time to refuse. He didn't. Our fingers interlaced, and the feeling wasn't electric. It wasn't magical. It was human. Fragile. Honest. Warm. He looked at me with wonder. This is new. Feels like a start to me. We sat there a long time. Two silhouettes in a broken room. Not afraid. Not untouched anymore. Just together. The first time Ashar kissed me, it wasn't with his lips. It was with the way he looked at me across the bed. Like he was memorizing the exact way my chest rose when I breathed. Like he wanted to trace it, but still wasn't sure if he had the right. I sat beside him, half covered by sheets that felt far too expensive for actual human use. The kind of fabric that clung without sticking, warm without weight. His room, like the rest of Vellum, was quiet and precise. Cool stone floors, warm lights glowing behind carved panels, and glass shelves lined with books whose titles flickered in and out of legibility. Ashar sat with one leg tucked under him, shirt off, posture too perfect to be accidental. His skin still glowed faintly, where the magic had burned out the night before. But his eyes had softened, like for once. He wasn't calculating. Just being. I keep thinking this isn't real, I said. He tilted his head. Because I'm not human? No, because I'm me. I chuckled under my breath. A week ago, you looked at me like I was a hazard sign. You were. And now? Ashar looked down at my hand resting on the blanket, then back up. Now, he said, you're a question I don't want answered. Because the asking is too good. That's dangerously poetic. I'm a demon, he replied dryly. We traffic in drama. The first touch was my idea. I slid my hand across the sheets, slow, deliberate, until it found his. He didn't flinch. Not this time. His fingers curled around mine with reverence, like he still expected me to vanish. "I'm here," I whispered. "I know." And then we kissed. It wasn't dramatic. Not at first. It was soft, careful, like we were tasting language for the first time. His lips were warm, a little cooler than mine, and when I leaned closer and pressed my hand to his chest, he let out a sound, low, like surprise and relief braided together. He pulled me gently into his lap, and we didn't rush. There was nothing hungry in it, just curiosity and weightless disbelief. I laughed once, right into his mouth. "Sorry," I muttered. This feels like a dream I shouldn't be allowed to keep." Ashar smiled. "Then don't wake up." Later, tangled in blankets and each other, I rested my head on his shoulder. "Still alive," I murmured. Ashar brushed my hair back, fingertips ghosting over my temple. "Still beautiful," he replied. I smirked. "You think I'm beautiful?" He turned his head slowly, met my eyes. "You're too beautiful," he said, voice like silk over stone. "It's inconvenient." I laughed again. Says the immortal nightclub demon with cheekbones forged by ancient gods. "I lost my balance the moment you walked into my office and refused to make eye contact." I grinned. "I make people uncomfortable when I'm nervous. You made me curious." A pause. "And that's rarer than you think." Eventually, I asked quietly, "Was it true? What Bram said, that if the artifact had worked, you'd be severed? From this place? From yourself?" Ashar nodded, still watching the ceiling. "Yes." "And you were just going to let that happen?" His jaw tightened. "I thought it would spare you." "Spare me from what?" "From what I am," he said. "I'm not supposed to want this. It breaks things inside me. I spent centuries perfecting." I traced my fingers down his forearm. "Maybe they weren't worth perfecting." Ashar let out a breath. "The truth is, I've been fading since the day I tried to push you away. That made me sit up." "You're losing power?" He nodded. "The moment I chose you over control." I started unraveling. I stared at him. "You should have told me. I didn't want you to stay out of pity." I leaned down, kissed the corner of his mouth, then his jaw. "Try again." He blinked. I kissed the hollow beneath his ear. "Try again." Ashar exhaled. "I didn't want you to see me weak. There it is." He looked at me like he was afraid I'd vanish with the morning light. I didn't. As the sky began to tint toward dawn, we sat on the floor, backs against the bed. "I still don't get it," I said. "Why me? Why couldn't you touch me before, but now you can?" Ashar was silent for a long time. Then, "Because I stopped trying to take." I turned to look at him. "My magic, my nature, it's always been about drawing energy from contact. Every interaction had a cost. But you, I didn't want to take from you. I wanted to give." I felt my chest tighten. "And that broke the rule?" He nodded. "It rewrote it." I stared down at my hands. "What does it mean now?" Ashar leaned in, pressed his lips to my cheek, slow and certain. "It means this," he said softly, "is the last thing I'll feel as a demon." I froze. "What?" He held my face in both hands. "I can't be both," he whispered. "To stay like this, to touch you like this, I have to let go of what I was." "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "But it's right." My throat closed. "And you're sure?" Ashar smiled, a soft, sad thing. "For the first time in a very long life, yes." I closed my eyes as he leaned in, as his hand slid up to rest against my cheek. His thumb brushed my skin, one last flicker of warmth, of magic, of him. And then, it was gone. Not Ashar. Just the glow. What remained was only a man. Breathing. Warm. Holding me like I was the only tether he had left. "Still here?" I asked. He nodded. "Still yours?" I grinned. "Absolutely." Vellum didn't change overnight. But it changed. The walls stayed the same. The same smooth obsidian stone and glowing gold veins that caught the light like stars trapped in dark glass. The mirrored corridors were still there, though the doors to the contract chamber now stayed locked. No more soul trades. No more whispered deals with shadows. Instead, we installed quiet corners with real couches. Places to breathe. Music that didn't try to seduce you, just held you. The scent in the air shifted from honeyed spellwork to something gentler, like cedar and warmth and home. Ashar said it wouldn't work, and then watched as it did. The staff adapted surprisingly fast. Lucy, ever the cynic, raised a brow when I told her about the change. No more contracts, she said. What are we now? A hotel? I smirked. A refuge. Her lip curled. You're getting soft, and yet you're still here. She rolled her eyes. Someone has to supervise the rebrand. Even Cade smiled more. He added mocktails to the drink list, one of which changed flavor based on your mood, but no longer cost a sliver of your memory. It was just interesting. People still came, maybe more than before, and they left feeling lighter, not because something had been taken, but because nothing had. Lysias returned once. It was a Tuesday. He didn't smile this time. Ashar met him in the atrium while I watched from the upper mezzanine. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw the moment it ended. Lysias turned, cloak snapping behind him, and vanished in a ripple of shadow like he'd never been there. He never came back. Ashar didn't speak of it, and I didn't ask. Some things deserve to stay buried in silence. I became the manager officially 3 weeks later. The paperwork was anticlimactic, signed on a plain tablet in the back office, sandwiched between coffee orders and fire inspection logs. No fanfare. Just Ashar placing the stylus in my hand and saying, "You already run the place. Might as well get paid for it." I tried to look unimpressed, but the grin gave me away. People started asking questions about us. Not directly. Not out loud. But I caught the glances. The way Lucy's eyes lingered on our matching rings. The way Cade once raised his glass toward me without a word when Ashar reached out and brushed his fingers along my shoulder as he passed. We didn't make a show of anything. But we didn't hide either. We existed beside each other like gravity, quiet, constant, always there. One morning, I woke up before him. Ashar, the former demon who once commanded entire rooms with a glance, was snoring softly into my pillow, hair tangled across his forehead like an overdramatic prince. I almost didn't want to move, but then I noticed something new on his wrist. A thin band of dark leather, wrapped twice, with a small glinting charm shaped like a flame. I brushed it gently. He stirred, blinking awake. His voice was husky. "What time is it?" "Early." He glanced at my hand on his wrist. "You found it?" I wasn't snooping. "No," he said, smiling faintly. "It's a gift." "From who?" "The team." "Lucy's idea." I raised a brow. "Lucy?" "She said if I was going to play mortal, I needed to accessorize like one." I snorted. "It suits you." He turned onto his side, head propped on one arm. "It's enchanted," he said. "Of course it is. But not to take. It doesn't store energy or bind intentions. It just amplifies what's already there." I stared at him. "You mean?" He took my hand in his and brought it to his chest. And I felt it. A slow pulse. Not just heartbeat. Something deeper. A thread humming between us. Soft, steady, anchored. "I can touch you now," he said quietly. I smiled. "Yeah." I noticed. "But Sean," he added, brushing his fingers down my cheek, "you were already a touch before this. Even when I couldn't feel you, you reached me." My throat tightened. I pressed my forehead to his. "And you," I whispered, "were the one place I didn't mind falling into." He closed his eyes, and for the first time I saw it fully. The peace in him. Not from stolen magic, not from power, but from presence. Vellum lived on. Not as a secret, not as a sanctuary for deals, but as a place where people could choose connection over transaction. As for us, we stayed. Together. Not perfect. Not easy. But real. And that, as it turned out, was the only magic either of us ever really needed. The club thrived. Not in the same way it used to. Not with silent contracts sealed in whispers and magic stitched into every glance. But in a warmer, slower rhythm. People still lined up at the velvet-curtained entrance. They still came dressed in silk and expectation. But now, they left with something real. A laugh they hadn't heard from themselves in years. A conversation that didn't require masks. A drink that tasted like memory and hope instead of binding power. Cade added music nights. Lucy still made terrifyingly efficient schedules, though now she hummed as she worked. The back lounge had beanbags. Actual beanbags. And plants. One of them, somehow, glowed when it liked you. Ashar swore it wasn't magical. I didn't believe him. Ashar changed, too. He slept more. Not because he needed it, but because he liked it. He started collecting socks. Ridiculous ones. Bright yellows, tiny ducks, constellations. I'd open drawers and find pairs rolled like candy. I like soft things now, he said once, deadpan. I'm telling Lucy you said that. She already knows. He wasn't as powerful anymore. Not in the old way. The kind that made walls hum when he walked by. That power had faded, like mist pulled gently away by dawn. But in its place, something better had grown. He was alive, messier, hungrier, slower to speak, quicker to laugh. Sometimes I'd catch him just staring at sunlight on the floor, like it was the most novel thing in the world. We held hands more than I thought we would. It wasn't always romantic. Sometimes it was just practical. Navigating a crowd. Pulling him out of a spiral when he got too lost in memory. Letting him know I was still here when the world shifted beneath his feet. Sometimes we fought. Over dumb things. Milk ratios in coffee. Whether I was overwatering his plants. Why he kept forgetting to charge his phone, even though he no longer had magical excuses. But even after the worst days, even when we didn't talk for hours, he would still reach for me in the dark. Still press his hand to mine like it was a map leading him back home. And I always let him in, because he never took. He chose. Again. And again. And again. I've learned a lot about touch. It's not always skin. It's not always hands. It's not always soft. Sometimes it's a voice that knows you're quiet. Sometimes it's a memory that refuses to fade. Sometimes it's someone staying, not because they have to, but because they want to. Ashar used to say he couldn't touch me, and maybe back then, he was right. But now, I know better. Some touches don't come from hands. They come from choosing someone. Again, and again. And I choose him. Still. Always.